I'm just off out for a nice evening. It's not really a run, it's not really a tramp. It's kind of a hike stroke jog kind of thing, which is kind of important because during your training for Tarawera there are certain kinds of special runs that I think you should probably try, and this is one of them. So my goal for this week is to talk to you a little bit through some of these special things I think you ought to do and give you some hints and tips. During your training for Tarawera, I think there are probably 3 or 4 things you might want to consider in terms of special runs. The first of these is probably the long run, and that's what everyone thinks of when you talk about special runs. And what it really means is probably sometime around New Year you should go and do a single long run of 50% maybe in terms of distance or time of how long you expect to take at Tarawera. Doesn't matter if it's a bit less, doesn't matter if it's a bit more. So for example, for the Taupo 100k, I went and ran the Riverhead Rampage Marathon. 42k, I didn't race it, I ran it. And that's kind of the important thing. What you're doing is you're not really trying to drive physiological changes, although you'll get some good benefit from that. You're trying to test everything out. Your gear, your mental fortitude, I guess you could say, but there is also a physiological component to it. And that thing that you should do, that 50 kilometre, but anywhere between a marathon and 60k, should be done on something approaching similar terrain to the Tarawera trails in terms of mixture of surfaces, in terms of height gain. Pretty standard stuff. Should you go longer? I personally wouldn't. I don't think that once you get beyond about 50k there is any more benefit to doing longer, but different people find different things. But certainly I wouldn't for the 100k go any further than, let's say for the sake of argument, 60k would be a hard limit for me. And frankly 50k is plenty if you're or you could do it by time. So if you think you're going to finish in, let's say 15 hours, 7.5 hours out on the trails, bit of running, bit of walking, in a similar kind of vein to what you'd expect to do at Tarawera, but maybe a bit less intense. So, the long run. Special session number 2, hiking. Tarawera 102k is, as courses go, reasonably runnable. There are some bits you are going to walk though. So unless your name is Croft, Canaday, Walmsley, Herron, you're walking up the hill outside Okataina. So it's really worthwhile doing a little bit of hiking. Doesn't need to be a lot, maybe once a week, but still. So what I'm doing is I'll go out with my kit, remember, specificity, and I just leave my house and I go and jog the flats, run the downhills, but I grind and walk all the way on the uphills. And while I'm on road now, very shortly I'm going to be on trail. But even if you are not at the front, but a bit further to the front than many runners, it's worthwhile doing. But as you go further back, it's even more worthwhile doing, because as proportionally as longer you expect to take on the course, you'll be walking for a greater proportion. Special run type number 3. Now this one's a little bit more relevant to people who are doing 100 mile, or to people who are going to take a little bit longer to do the 102k, and there is no shame in that. Night running. So as you'll have noticed from this run as we've gone on, it's got darker and darker, and it's kind of just about maybe about 10 to 9 at night. on the 20th of December, so we're near the longest day. But I'm trying to get out and start when it's light, run through twilight, and then run on into the dark. Just so psychologically I'm used to doing it, going from light to dark, because your circadian rhythm, the rhythm of your body throughout the day, changes, so you need to get used to that. But also because, I'll be honest, I don't like running in the dark. It freaks me out a little bit, especially out in the bush. So if that's one of your fears, then get out and face it. Go for a run in the evening, hike the hills, just enjoy it. Maybe go with some other people to begin with until you get used to the idea. So I'm getting used to the idea again, having not done it for pretty much about 10-12 months. And my final tip, it's not really a special run as such, but one of the things you've got to do is, the weather on race day is not something you can control. It's going to be what it's going to be. And so rather than trying to control it or worry about it, control your response to it. So if it's wet, go for a run. If it's baking hot, wear sunscreen, but go for a run. Take a bit of extra water maybe as well. If it's cold, go for a run. If it's 4 seasons in one day, this is New Zealand after all, go for a run. You can't control the weather. You can control how you train. Right, I've nearly lost the light, so I'm going to get on with it, because I'm about to head up onto Beveridge Track, out towards Aotaki Visitor Centre, where it's going to be pitch black, and you'll not be able to see a thing, and the footage will look awful. So, great talking with you guys. Hope your training is going really, really well. Speak soon.